Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back for another episode of Elite Life with Sam. I am your host, Sam. Now, listen, one of the things that I continuously get asked about online, and I don't know if it's just the fact that I chopped off so much hair or if there truly is like this huge physical transformation that I can't see that everybody else can, but I'm constantly being asked, girl, what did you do? And I don't mean just by the girlies, like guys are asking too. And so it really has made me contemplate the changes that I have made over the past, especially solid year. Although this has been a journey that I've been on for the past better than 2 years now. Actually, 3 years now. It started in the fall of 2022. And I don't even count the first year, anyways, because that was just like a solid year of depression and super unhealthy coping mechanisms. And then I had to start crawling my way back out of that. But you know what? I no longer feel shame over that. I'm not beating myself up over that anymore, and you shouldn't either, because the shit that you're dealing with really is heavy and it really is hard. And just because other people deal with it and maybe from the outside it seems like they're getting through it with flying colors, don't let that make you feel less than, because truth be told, they're not. They're just probably a little better at faking it than you. So, today we're going to talk about things that look like healing but aren't, because these are things that I had to learn the hard way. And once I began to wrap my head around it, true inner healing started happening. And when I tell you, I was so disassociated from my true authentic self, people would say, I would hear like gurus and professionals and people that I looked up to go, authenticity is the highest vibrational space that you can be in. Like, yeah, but nobody's explaining what being authentic really means. And I think for a long time, I functioned in a space that I thought was authentic, but truly it wasn't. I was mirroring what I thought would make me happy. I was mirroring other people that I thought looked happy, and I thought if I can embody what they're doing, how they're acting, dressing, showing up online, showing up in their daily lives, then I'll be happy too. That's not true at all. That is not what authenticity is about. I think that authenticity is about really healing from the inside out, knowing who you are, and unapologetically being that person. It doesn't matter if you have 2 million followers, if you have 0 followers, if you have a huge circle of friends, or if you just have like a couple that are close to you. It doesn't matter if you have millions of dollars in your bank account or you're living paycheck to paycheck and robbing Peter to pay Paul. None of that equivalates. Is that a word? Wait just a second. Equivalent? I think I just made that up. Esquifis. Equates. That's the word. None of that equates to being authentic. Authenticity is showing up as your true self every day, knowing that I'm doing this because it makes me happy. I'm saying this because it is my truth. I'm showing up in this space, in this way, because this is what is true to my spirit. This is what is true to my soul. So let's jump in. All right, things that look like healing but aren't. Avoidance disguised as boundaries. Bro, when I tell you this one was so hard for me because I am a runner. When I tell you, like, my fight or flight is insane. I try very hard not to stay in fight because and I don't just mean like physically fight, guys. Come on. We're talking about like verbal, hard situations. Like, I am a runner. I'm a track star. If I can avoid uncomfortable situations and uncomfortable conversations, I will. And I know that probably sounds super counterintuitive to anything that you see from me online. But those are curated spaces. And those generally are not people that I'm close with. So if it's a situation where I can avoid a confrontation or a hard conversation, bet your ass I'm out of there. That is not a boundary. Boundaries. So what it sounds like when you're avoiding is I'm just protecting my peace. I can't tell you how many times I said that. I'm protecting my peace, and I would skirt out of there. I would not answer emails. I would not answer text messages. I just don't have the emotional bandwidth for that. I don't do hard conversations anymore, and I'm just not engaging with that energy. These are all avoidance type verbiages that I would use. And what's happening is that I'm actually functioning from a place of fear because I don't believe that I can handle a hard conversation. My nervous system was not healed enough to have those hard conversations and I honestly didn't have enough clarity to even have those conversations for myself because I wasn't fully in control of my own emotions. I wasn't in control of my own thoughts and perceptions because I wasn't healed. And this is what I mean when I say I put in the hard work for this quote unquote glow up that everybody's talking about. I spent over 2 years going to therapy, sitting with myself. When people talk about shadow work, this is what they're talking about. Sitting with yourself, holding yourself accountable, getting out all the crud that's on the inside. It's like when you have a chest cold and you're violently coughing and everything's breaking up and your cough sounds horrible and it sounds like you're hacking up a lung and you're just coughing up all of that mucus and stuff. It's the same thing emotionally. You have to go through that season of sickness where you're just getting all the ugly stuff out and you're looking at it and you're facing it. And for me, I had to sit with my younger self and forgive myself for a lot of things that I allowed to happen to me, for not standing up for myself. I had to come to a place where I gave my younger self grace because I did the best with the knowledge that I had at the time. And now, at the time when I was healing through this, I had to go, all right, that's who I was. I'm not who I'm going to be. I am becoming her. And so when I talk about giving myself grace through these past 2.5, 3 years, it's going to feel icky. Like I super hated myself some days. I was like, yuck, because transition and metamorphosis is not pretty. It is not what everybody portrays on social media. It's not. It's just not the beautiful, let's sit and let's hum to ourselves. That's not really what healing is. Journaling and crying and searching and, like I said, holding yourself accountable and getting up and trying and failing and struggling through that day and getting up and trying again. And so because I was not in control of my own self and my own emotions to the point where I thought, like, I can't even fully hold myself accountable. How am I going to hold anybody else accountable? And so I would avoid hard conversations. And so avoidance says, I'm scared of how this will feel, so I'm disappearing. If you can't say it calmly, you're not setting a boundary, you're avoiding discomfort. But discomfort is what helps you grow. Where people tend to get stuck, and I did as well, so please understand when I'm pointing a finger at you, there's 3 more pointing back at me. People will ghost. Let me point it at me. I would ghost people instead of having those follow-up conversations. I went on a blocking spree. Yes, I did. Yes, I did, because I was disgusted by seeing their name or seeing their face and then cutting people off without ever setting a limit. Now, let me tell you this. That is murky territory. Sometimes it is okay to block and cut people off without stating your boundary or giving them a limit. If it is somebody that you know is not going to respond well, that you know they are not in a place mentally, spiritually, emotionally where they can receive the message that you're giving them lovingly and calmly, it's okay. It's okay. You can't get water from a dry well. And that's something that you're going to have to judge for yourself. So I'm not telling you to like just put yourself in front of a train to get mowed over. What I'm saying is that if there's a chance that the person that you has put in time to build a relationship with you and maybe just isn't doing it the way that is beneficial to you anymore, have a loving conversation and go, hey, listen, this is not a judgment on you. I just need to tell you where I'm coming from. I feel, when this happens, when you say things like this, it makes me feel less than. And 9 times out of 10, they don't even realize that they're doing that. I promise you, most of the time, they're going to be like, I had no idea. Of course, I'm going to stop saying or doing X, Y, Z. And if they don't, then you kind of have your answer there. The next thing is called spiritual bypassing. So what it sounds like is like letting things off the hook. Everything happens for a reason. I'm choosing peace instead of reacting. I've healed that. I'm just going to send love. And I think this is a little bit of like spiritual hysteria, like where you feel like you're transcending past drama or situations or things that actually need confrontation. But what you're doing is that you're skipping really important emotions that we were given and we have to be able to feel, such as anger, grief, confrontation, because out of those things we see a lot of truth. And jumping straight into this quote unquote spiritual transcendence is actually doing us a really great injustice, because we can learn so much more out of seasons of going through anger and grief and confronting our old limiting beliefs and confronting our old patterns. I heard his name, Philip Mitchell or Mitchell Philip, or he's a new pastor that I just recently discovered on TikTok. And he said this, and boy, it hit me like a ton of bricks. He said, I have learned more from my valleys and dark nights than I have ever learned from my blessings. And I was like, oh my God, like that made me think so differently about the stuff that I have been through, the shit that I went through in 2022 and 2023 and even 2024. And I was like, I would not be the person that I am today had it not been for those really, really hard times. I wouldn't know who is really, truly down for me. I wouldn't know who to trust. I wouldn't know how to handle healthy boundaries with people. I wouldn't know how to handle getting through, holding myself accountable. And I think that blessings are the reward for getting through the valleys. And not that lets everybody off the hook scot-free. You can still appreciate the experience while holding people accountable. And so if you're using, and I did this too, if we're using spirituality to avoid humanity, those emotions that we really do actually have to feel and experience, that's not healing, that is numbing, that is avoidance, and it's going to hurt you so much worse in the long run. Things that you can forgive somebody, this was a hard one. You can forgive somebody and them never ask for you to forgive them. You can never get an apology from them. They can never, ever once acknowledge the harm that they did towards you. And you can process, if you will allow yourself to feel the anger and the hurt and the all of the negative emotions that everybody's like, whoa, 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 if you want to manifest, you got to stay far away from those. I think part of manifesting through negative emotions, and we label them negative, or we can say low vibrational, all these catchy terms that are out there right now. But you can process through those and be grateful that you have those, because those are also teaching you a lesson. Anger teaches you, hey, you have crossed a line, you have crossed a boundary, and that makes me feel super unsafe. That makes me feel offended. And so that tells you more about you than it tells you about them. Yes, they're the ones that perform the action, but why did that make you feel like that? Is that something that you you can stand behind and go, hey, whoa, you really seriously crossed a boundary? Or is it something that you're like, wait, why did I feel that? Did they actually do anything wrong? Is that actually a boundary that I have? Or is that an insecurity that I'm still dealing with that is unhealed? Is that something that I am bringing in from my past that has nothing to do with this current situation? Same thing with grief. I think grief is so beautiful and so important, and it's an emotion that I really had to get comfortable with after I lost my dad. Is I was so angry at him, and we were not on speaking terms when he died, and I didn't think that I had the right to grieve his passing. And nothing could be further from the truth. Yes, we had our issues, and there were things that I am still dealing with and still processing through, but I can still feel grief for the loss of the opportunity to actually patch things up, the opportunity to one day get an apology for him, the opportunity to rebuild our relationship and have a healthier, happier relationship moving forward. I can grieve the loss of all of these things that I hoped for that I will never get, while also still being able to process anger or sadness. And then confrontation is something that can go both ways. You can confront the things within yourself, and we've really touched on this a lot so far. You can confront things in yourself that will better you. You can confront things in a relationship that will better the relationship, or you can be confronting things that will not serve you whatsoever. And that's something that you're going to have to really sit down and look at the why behind it. I have a scripture tattooed on my arm. It's Proverbs 4:23, and it says, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. And what that means is what's inside is going to pour out. So the next point is high vibe only culture, and we kind of touched on this already. Now listen, I am all for being happy and being positive and high vibes, but not when it comes to the detriment of our humanity. Things like, I don't entertain negativity, I only focus on the positive. That's low frequency. I'm protecting my vibration. And guys, I fell into this trap as well. And I won't say it was all bad, because before I went into this practice, I was dealing with a lot of depression and separation. I would seclude myself. I cried all the time. I would take to the bed for days at a time. But what we need to cut out and reprogram ourselves is thinking that sadness equals feeling like a failure. You can be sad, you can feel sadness, and be a wildly successful person. You can feel anger without regressing back into the person that you used to be. You can feel anger and still move forward if you will allow yourself to process through it. And grief does not equal weakness. Grief is something that we are allowed to sit with, and it can teach us a lot about where we are and what we're feeling and how to navigate moving forward. If I didn't sit with my grief over losing my dad, I don't think that I would, that changed me so fundamentally. It changed the way that I look at building our businesses, building our legacy, building our family. I have a 16-year-old. He'll be 17 this year. The next one will be 15 this year. And then Titus, who is 11, will be 12 at the end of the year. And they're growing up. And I am navigating through life with my dad having passed away and being almost completely cut off from my mom. We don't, I mean, maybe we talk 2 or 3 times a year. And so I don't have active parents in my life. And so sitting with that grief made me look at where he was in his life, where I am in my life. And for the first time in my life, I gave myself credit. I know that sounds crazy, but I have a really hard time with celebrating wins for myself. I will throw a party for everybody else, but when it comes to myself, it's never quite good enough, or I'll hit a milestone and I'm on to the next thing because that's where my self-worth was. And I started looking and looking around at everything that I had built, multiple successful businesses and kids that I have a really great relationship with, and a home that's steady and stable that I'm able to come home to every night, and it's full of laughter and it's full of food, and it's literally everything that I did not have as a child. And I was like, I did it. I did it. And I didn't have to wait until I was 70 years old to look back on my life and realize I spent all this time in regret and sadness and working myself to the bone just to miss everything. And then later realize that I had actually accomplished what I set out to accomplish. Like, what a blessing to be able at 38 years old to look at where I am right now and be so grateful and feel that sense of pride and achievement. And so if you don't think that joy can coexist with grief, you're wrong. It absolutely can. Overworking as control. This is a lie. This is not true at all. Things I would say is that I'm just driven. Sound familiar? I thrive under pressure. I love being booked and busy. Rest makes me anxious. This was so me. Rich, early in our relationship, would come home and he would just be like, babe, can you just come sit with me? Like, I would work all day and I would come home and I would work. I would be cleaning the house and rearranging the cabinets and cooking dinner and taking a Q-tip to the air filter. Like, I would keep myself busy because I couldn't just sit with myself. I was so unhealed. And so what is actually happening, or what was happening for me, is that I would avoid stillness at all costs because I was actually avoiding emotions. I wasn't allowing myself to ask the hard questions. And I would disguise it as, I'm just an ambitious woman, right? Like, it was a form of pride. Like if I'm not busy, if I'm not constantly working myself to the bone, then I'm wasting my potential. And this, although it is a form of self-protection, it's not a healthy form. So if slowing down starts to feel unsafe, you're not slowing down because you're lazy. It's because you learned somewhere in your past that productivity equals worth. You are worthy without producing a damn thing. You are entitled to lazy days. You are entitled to take to the bed and DoorDash in food once in a while. I'm not going to sit here and say that you should do this every day or that you should give up on your goals and your dreams, but you're allowed to rest. Even God rested. It said he created the earth, and on the seventh day he rested. If God rested and we're created in his image, you're allowed to rest too. All right, the last one, and I think that this is going to hit home, especially for a lot of women, is that people-pleasing is masked as kindness. This is something that I think I still struggle with to an extent because I know what it feels like to feel forgotten and alone and like everything is on me. And so I'm constantly worrying over everybody around me. Are you okay? Are you okay? Can I do anything for you? What do you need? Whereas before I would exhaust all of my own resources to care for somebody else. And I'm not saying charity isn't important and sacrificing for others isn't important. It is. But when it comes to the point where you are sacrificing yourself mentally and physically and financially, that's not healthy. I would be so nervous if anybody was upset with me. Like, if I offended anybody, I would say outwardly, I don't care. I don't give a damn. But it would eat me alive on the inside. Now, when I say, I don't give a damn, leave a 1-star review. What are you gonna do? Like, what, a 1-star review isn't going to take away my birthday. It's not going to take away the thousands of clients that we have who are devoted to us and scream our name from the mountaintops. Like, so you didn't get a quote, which you actually did get a response email. You just failed to reply. So you didn't get a quote when you thought you should have. Calm down. Like, nobody died. Okay, you still have your birthday this year. I truly just, because I have a sense of my own self-worth, and I know at the end of the day that I can say I may not have been perfect, but I strived for perfection and I gave it my best effort. You can't take anything away from me. I would bend over backwards to be nice, and it's not about being nice. There is a difference in being a nice person and being a kind person. Let me say that again. Try to let it sink in. There is a difference in being a nice person and being a good person. Let me say it like that. A nice person worries about everybody's feelings around them. A good person does what is right, does what is just, does what they know they should be doing. And so kindness or goodness without honesty, it's not kind or good. It's just confusing. So why this matters is because it will breed resentment within you for other people. And you'll wake up like me one day and just go, I really hate people. Guys, I had gotten to that point. I'm like, I just hate people. Like, other people's voices would be like a cheese grater on my nerves. I just hate people because I expected every interaction to end with me feeling frustrated and absolutely used to the very last point that I couldn't give anything else. It's like wringing out a dry towel. I got nothing for you. That is not the way you should be feeling towards other people. You should be feeling like, hey, there are good people and there are bad people. I love most people. I love some people. Some people are just trash. But you shouldn't wake up thinking, man, I really just hate people, right? People are just inherently bad. They're not. And I think that's why we've gotten into the position as a society, especially as women. Like, we are so touched out, gave out, everything out. Like, we're at our limit because we're not protecting ourselves. And it makes you really stop trusting yourself and your own intuition. When you're constantly, it's like an exchange, like your intuition, your spirit, your gut, right? Everybody's like, trust your gut, but we're not trusting that. It gives us like a pot of gold at the beginning of the day, right? And we're just handing out these gold coins. Like, you get a coin, you get a coin, you get a coin. Heifer, where's your coins? At the end of the day, you got no coins left, right? So you're not able to trust yourself to steward what you have within you well. So you've got to get these things under control, you guys. I know, I did it. And I think this is where what they say, what you are on the inside shows on the outside. And I would not give up the past 3 years for anything in the world. Now I can honestly say, like, I treasure the growth and the hard things that I had to walk through, and the valley. We're just going to call it the valley, the 3-year valley. I wouldn't give that up for anything in the world now, because it taught me more about myself than the blessings I know are coming because of it. So I hope that this helped. I really hope that this resonated with you guys. And I hope that you'll continue talking and asking yourself the hard questions and realizing that this is just a season. You're going to get through it. Now, how long this season goes is totally up to you and what you do with it. Because I promise you, you're going to keep learning the same lessons over and over and over until you get them right. But anyways, guys, I love you so, so much. Thanks for logging in this week. And until next time, see ya.